some people say that a Vox needs to be a combo. Like the Vox AC30 only sounds great in that same like chassis where you have like the amplifier and the speakers in one enclosure, and it doesn't sound as great if you have a head and use it with a different cab because of the way the whole thing resonates. I'm not sure. Some people say that. Do you have any comment on that?
Well, what sounds better? What sounds... I mean, it's really a matter of preference, but I think that the word I keep using throughout this podcast is tradition, like the traditionalist. They want the Alnico Blue, right? They want the cab that goes along with it because they're looking for that specific tone. Personally, I don't give two shits. Like, for me, I'm using the head because I like the voicing, but I'm going to use whatever speaker I feel like it. I'm going to be one of those people who's going to say something very outrageous, but I find the V30 to be probably the best speaker I've tried with a Vox.
Interesting.
Because if you use fuzz and you use distortion, the V30 performs super well. It handles the volume. And to my point here, that's what Bad Cat uses with their amplifiers. They use the V30s. They remove the doping around the speaker just to get that more broken in sound. But if you use today's like Vox, not Vox, but Celestion V30s with an AC30 or with the AC15, it sounds great. And when you consider that the V30 is kind of like the next step up from the Alnico Blue, like the lineage of it, the DNA is kind of coming from that. So when you consider that, you go, okay, so if I remember right, the V30 was kind of sold as this perfected Alnico Blue when it first came out. Yep. Sonically, they're very different, but in an AC30 or AC15, the V30 is stellar, but it doesn't have the chime that everyone's looking for. It doesn't have the more boxy mids that are reminiscent of old Vox amplifier. It's more of a modern take on it. I also prefer over the Alnico Blue, the greenback, because I play a lot of fuzz. But the Alnico Blue, if you play that with a Vox and you're just using barely any distortion and you have a really clean single coil guitar, you really get that old sound that people are after.
Okay.
And I think that is part of the equation. We're talking like speakers, we're talking the cab. It's really a matter of preference. Like I have this really old cab beside me here that we can't see off screen, but it's what they used to call the Super Twin. So it was basically like an oversized AC30 cabinet. And if you looked at the construction, it's cheap. It's not, by today's standard, this is not a high quality cabinet. But it's got a sound, the way that the half open back is on the back of this amplifier. And like I told you, the speakers I put in this thing for the AC50, I have the 70th anniversary in a greenback. Why? Because they sound fantastic with a Vox style amplifier. So some people are gonna, say, no, you need the Alnico Blue. Yeah, if you do Beatles, if you do like U2 stuff like that, maybe. But for what I do, I tend to do more higher gain stuff. I prefer a speaker that doesn't seem to cut off like the high end the same way that an Alnico Blue will do. And the cabinet, I mean, you can have small, big, depends what frequency response you're looking from the amplifier. But I'm not a traditionalist, so I'm probably not the right person to ask about like how to get like the right speaker and cab combination. I'm like, I'll use whatever the hell I have. Yeah. Simply put.
Okay. I get that. Yeah, it's funny though. We talked about the cabinet. I think the Vox AC30 or like Vox amps or Vox type amps for that matter is one of the amplifiers where the speaker selection is more crucial than with other amps, in my opinion. Whenever I played a Marshall, I was able to play it with greenbacks. Sounds great, depending on the Marshall, depending on the kind of sound you're going for, obviously. I was able to play it with V30s. Yeah, it's a different color, It's a bit more like mid-nosy in a way. I was able to play it with G 1275 or 65, but then again, G 1265s also sound really, really great. The creambacks, they also sound really great with Fender type amps. You know, so there's a mix and blend and swap. You can do a lot of things, but I feel like with the Vox, there are speakers that you can absolutely use, and then it's a question of preference and your like personal perception. But there are speakers you cannot use with the Vox because it's going to be unanimous. Everybody's going to say it sounds terrible.
Yeah, I think it has to do with the gatekeepers, like the people who tell you what a Vox is supposed to sound like. I've made, I don't know, over 400 videos on my YouTube channel, and sometimes I have to use impulse responses, and I've used everything. The G1265, the creambacks, the Alnico Blue, the V30s, and never, ever have I ever had anyone say, "You sound like shit. You're not using the right speaker, man. I can tell." No one. So that's why I call BS, because I think it's really a matter of preference. If you play mostly clean and you're looking for that, like Beatles or Rolling Stone, Rory Gallagher, whatever, yeah, you need the Alnico Blue. I agree. It's part of that sound, if that's what you're looking for. But there's a new breed of guitar players that are not about the Beatles. They're not about the 1960s. They're about the now.
Yeah.
And you got musicians like Dashboard Confessional, Thrice, all these new bands that are using Vox, and they have nothing to do with the 1960s. They are current bands from right now. They're using modern guitars, modern pedals. They use whatever the hell comes with the amp. Even Vox at some point, I mentioned it earlier, came out with a AC-15 that had a WGS speaker in there that had nothing to do with the greenback or the blue.
Right.
It was a completely different speaker, and apparently it sounds great. Traditionalists will tell you, nope, it's not the real thing because it doesn't have the right speaker. Change it if you want. You know, it's a matter of what the person's looking for. Like I said, I play a lot of fuzz. I love fuzz, and I also love high gain pedals. And with the Alnico Blue, it's a great sounding speaker, but it doesn't sound exactly the way I want it for that style of music. Now, if I'm going with a Klon or maybe some subtle distortion, it sounds actually great with the Arc of Tone. But the Arc of Tone sounds great with any speaker I throw at it and any amplifier I throw at it. But some amps are more picky with the speaker depending on what style you play. So let's say you get a fuzz face into an old 1960s AC30 and you compare that to, let's say, a JMP45. People are going to be like, ugh, I'm going to prefer the Marshall because I've heard that combination before. But with the AC30, doesn't sound as good. Change the speaker in the AC30. You might see a hell of a difference in how the amplifier reacts. So that's why I'm saying, like, my point of view is not traditionalist. Like I try and serve people what they want to hear, but at the same time, my opinion is, okay, you love the Alnico Blue, you love the smaller cabinet, or you love the AC30 cabinet. I've tried my amps with 4x12s, 1x12s. I throw anything at it because I want to see what the amp is capable of. And if people thought more like that, I think maybe Vox would have more variety in terms of what they're offering. Yeah. But because a lot of us are more traditionalists towards this company, I think they don't have the same creative outlet in terms of what they can come up with than, let's say, someone like Marshall or someone like Fender. You know, I think that might be the thing, but I could be wrong. Like, this is just my opinion. I'm not an expert on this stuff. It's just what I see and what I play and all that. But yeah, I think for the speaker, play whatever. As soon as you find what works, man, just roll with it.
Yeah.